How's everybody doing today? Welcome into the broadcast. Ready to get rolling on the show today? I think it's time. Let's go. Here we go, let's do this show. How you guys doing? Welcome into the Vilaxium, and good to have you on the show today. Is number, I think I can hold this up right. I can't draw, so sit. Can you see it? Oh, there it is. 686. 686 programs. We've been hanging here making noise. Carrying on and blabbing. Doing the thing we do. How's everybody doing today? Good to see you. What's up, Diane and Alyssa? Hey, Stu. Stu's here from down in South Carolina, as my kids used to say. Hey, Sandra from Florida's here. And Jeannie's in the house. And Jane and Pamela and Dodie's here. Kevin Dolan. What's up, Kevin Dolan? What are you doing, Bubba? Good to see you on the show. Hey, Carol and DJ and Kim and David and so many folks on over. Hey, on Periscope, how you guys doing? YouTube, I'm going to get a drink of water. I'm having that drainage today. If the weather would ever clear up around here, I'd be a happy camper. You guys ready to sing a little bit? If I can, I don't know. We're talking this week about selflessness again, and we're taking a different direction. We talked yesterday about Paul in prison and some of the stuff he did while he was in prison, and we're going to talk a bit more. You're in a huge thunderstorm. I hope you're okay. Hey, Clara. Hey, Lynn. I didn't see you. and so we're talking about selflessness and such abuse in American church and the preaching of the gospel around the world, really. And we talked about how we've just basically made Christianity, a focal point, a self-focal point. And I give the analogy of the church a lot about you got a big, huge funnel out of heaven, and it just ends up right on my head. And that's okay to be blessed by God, but there's more to the picture, a lot more to the story. And, of course, when you raise up a church that's totally self-centered, guess what you get? A bunch of self-centered people. I'm trying to get the drainage to go before I sing. Let's try to sing this song together. I love this song anyway. It's one of my favorites I get to do. Let's sing it together. Destined to die, poured out for all mankind. God's only Son, perfect and spotless one. He never sinned or suffered as if he did. And all of His plan. You sending us out, the light in this broken land. All authority, every victory is yours. All authority, every victory is yours. Savior, worthy of honor and glory, worthy of all of our praise. You overcame, Jesus, awesome in power forever. Awesome, great is your name. Yeah. You overcame, and we will overcome by the blood of the Lamb, the word of our testimony. Everyone overcome, and we will overcome by the blood of the Lamb, the word of our testimony. Everyone overcome. Yeah, we will overcome by the blood. Oh, the word of our testimony. Everyone overcome. Savior, worthy of honor and glory, worthy of all of our praise. You overcame, Jesus, awesome in power forever. Awesome, great is your name. You overcame, you overcame, you overcame, you overcame, you overcame. Hey, you overcame, you overcame. So I'm more than a conqueror. Oh, I'm more than a conqueror. By your blood, I'm more than a conqueror. I'm more than a conqueror. By your blood, Lord, I'm more than a conqueror. I'm more than a conqueror by your blood. We used to sing it back in church when I was a kid. We've been made more than conquerors. I've actually sung it on the show a couple times. How's everybody doing today? We got them all the way from Russia in the house. I saw Larry Kessler, who's doing missions work over in Perm, Russia. Perm, as they say it. And good to see you guys on. Hey, Larry Daniels, Doty, how you doing? Let me just go back and say hello to Ella and Kim and Kendra and Christine and a bunch of people I missed. Aunt Faye, Tim and Patty and Catherine and Kathy and Haley and Sarah. So many people. Hey, Bertha, what's up, Paxson? Clara, I don't know if I missed anybody. I sure hope I didn't, but I probably did. What's Devin's in here? What's up, Devin? And good to see you guys on the show today. Welcome to the Vital Axiom. We said today was number 686. which is kind of hard for me to even fathom. We're going to hit 700 soon. 700 Vital Axiom broadcasts. It's a bit crazy, don't you think, mate? Hey, we're talking for the past several weeks. Hey, Tasha. We're talking, Tisha, I'm sorry. We're talking for the last several weeks. My glasses, I had to turn my bifocals. Last several weeks about selflessness. And I want you to think this before we jump into it today in the next few minutes we have. If you have a church that preaches that it's all about you, and then the leader demonstrates that it's all about him, how can you come away with anything else but a church full of people that think it's all about who they are and what they get from God? I'm not saying that God doesn't want to bless you. Of course he does, absolutely. I mean, salvation is a blessing, and he prospers and moves in our lives. But Jesus said, okay, let's kind of make sure we got this. Jesus said that he came to be a servant, not to be served, and that we are to be like him and take on the same image. So, okay, that means that we are supposed to be servants like Christ, that we love people. I was on staff with a pastor for a while that said, I would love the ministry if it wasn't for the people. And that's a prevalent attitude, whether it's vocalized or not in churches, because what pastors and leaders want is a place that gives them attention, that gives them blessing, that focuses on them, that massages their ego, right? But at the same time, doesn't really care much about the people. And if you're not loving people, then you're not in the ministry. You can't be, because the ministry is people. So we started yesterday talking about Paul the Apostle. We named Ephesians, Philippians, I believe, Philemon. We named these 3 or 4 books there that he wrote while he was in prison. Letters, actually, he wrote while he was in prison. And so we ask ourselves, and he talked in those letters to Philemon, I think about you, I pray about you, I'm concerned about you. I'm in prison, in a Roman prison, by the way, and I'm thinking about you. And so we asked ourselves yesterday, so if I were in a prison cell, and if I were in a prison cell, hey, Luann, if I were in a prison cell, who would be on my mind for ministry? I want you to think about it. Say, well, I'm not going to prison. Well, Paul didn't go to prison because he did anything wrong. He went to prison because he was a Christian and proclaiming Christ. He wasn't a guilty sinner in there in prison. He was a righteous, godly man. And while he's in prison under all this punishment and suffrage and all the things that are going on in his life, the suffering and things, he thinks about other people. And I'm going somewhere with this, so you hang with me. We'll get there. So if you were in prison today, if you were going through a tough situation in a prison cell, who would you be thinking about? I'll just ask you that question. Well, I'd be thinking about me. I'd be praying, Lord, send somebody to get me out of here, Lord. I ain't got time to pray for nobody else because I got my own stuff to deal with. I'd be praying for me, and Lord, give me a deliverer, Lord, or send another earthquake or whatever. That's what I'd be doing. If you were in prison for your faith, who would you be praying for? Who would you take time to pray for in your community, in your family, in the church abroad, around the world? I want you to get this picture, because I want you to begin to understand that the preachers that have stood up and told you in the pulpit that it's all about you have lied to you. They have lied to you mostly for their own benefit. I posted the other day, if somebody says that to be blessed, you got to give them money, run away from them. I believe in tithing. I believe in giving. I believe in blessing. I believe in all those things. But when a man stands up in a pulpit and says, if you're going to get a big blessing, you got to give me a bunch of money, that man is manipulating you to get wealthy. They do it all the time. And they get wealthy, by the way. They buy big, expensive $18 million airplanes. They get all crazy because what they've done is they've played upon your desire to get blessed, to give them money, and they're telling you this is all about you, and if you'll give more money, you'll get greater blessing. If you were in prison for your faith, who would you be praying for? Who would you be encouraging? Would you encourage your cellmate or the head of the prison? I want you to think about it just for a minute. Who would you be reaching out to if you were in prison? Who would you take the time to sit down and write a letter to, or an email, which is different these days? Who would you be concerned about if you were in prison? If we're going to have a selfless conversation, if we're going to have a selfless conversation, and here's where we're kind of going this week. Here's where we're going. We can not only talk about when we feel like being selfless. The reason I picked Paul as an example or a sample of selflessness, I'm positive. I really am. I'm positive that Paul did not feel like being selfless. Man, I tell you, I woke up today in this prison cell. It stunk, and the sewage and all the sores on my back are getting infected, and I've lost weight, and I feel bad. I've picked up a bug from somebody. But man, I really feel like being selfless today. I don't think that's how he woke up. And so if we can't have a selfless conversation if we only talk about when you feel like being selfless. I want you to think about that just for a minute. Because, you know, can I be honest with you? Can I just tell you the truth? Most of us never feel like being selfless because we are selfish by nature, our sin nature. And then we come into the kingdom of God and all the preachers get up on the stage and they preach and they preach and they preach and they preach. It's all about you getting rich, all about you getting money. Then you become more selfish. Isn't it funny that Jesus said the love of money is the root of all evil, and the love of money has become the center point of a lot of churches and ministries? I guess that would mean that the center point of their ministry is the root of all evil. I want you to think about it just for a minute. You're condemning people. I'm just preaching truth. I want us to get ourselves back on track again. If we're not loving people, we're not doing ministry. And if ministry means that I'm going to be selfless only when it really feels good, man. Now, if I'm going through some stuff, if I'm going through a prison, then I'm going to focus on myself and my needs. The pastor told me to love myself first, and I've got to love me. And what is wrong with us? Have we ever read the Bible, I wonder? Hey, Luann. Hey, Aaron. Thank you, Rita. Hey, Gary. I mean, I want you to think about, hey, John, happy birthday. Somebody says, happy birthday to Heather Duffy Short. It's her birthday. I didn't know that. You cannot only think about when it feels good. We must talk about being selfless when we do not feel like being selfless. Because if it always feels good, you're probably not being selfless anyway. Because selfless eventually leads to sacrifice, and if you're not sacrificing, you're not being selfless. It doesn't happen that way. Most of us will consider being selfless if our circumstances are good enough. Think about that statement just for a minute. While working at Wallens Ridge. Wow, really? I know you worked there, Dodie. Couldn't have done it without him. And so most of us will consider being selfless if the circumstances are good. Man, I tell you what I'm going to do. Can I be honest with y'all? We just pause here for a minute and have a moment of transparency. Can we have some transparency? I can't tell you how many people have come to me and said, Pastor, I'm playing the lottery, and if I win, I'm going to bless the church. And I love people. I do. I just laugh inside. I don't laugh in their face, but I just laugh inside. And I'm thinking, if you can't be faithful and selfless now, you sure enough not going to be faithful and selfless when you win a bunch of money. And that kind of mentality is saying this: I am ready to do something for God when everything is perfect. I'm ready. I'm going to do something fantastic for the Lord when I get a bunch of money. Do something fantastic for God right now. Right where you are, because I'm pretty sure if you don't do it where you are, you're not going to do it when you get blessed. So think about that. Most of us will consider being selfless if the circumstances are right. Well, I got $10 extra here. I found it in the street. I'm going to give 5 of it away. Hey, Denise. I'm going to give 5 of it away because, the circumstances are good. I want you to think about that. People say, I only give when I can afford it. What does that mean? It means you're not being selfless. You're giving out of convenience. Jesus stood there and he watched all these people bring money. And he says, this little lady here gave the most. A bunch of them were offended. What do you mean? She only gave a little tiny bit because she gave a great sacrifice. So as we close today, I want you to think about selflessness. I want you to think about that just for a minute. And if I'm going through something, here let me back up. Most Christians will only consider being selfless when the circumstances are good. But if I'm going through something, if I got a problem in my life, my kids are making me pull my hair out, you better not get in my face because I'm not going to be like Jesus then. Sorry, I'm not going to make a sacrifice when I don't feel like. I'm not going to be selfless when I'm not in the mood. When I'm having a hormonal attack, increase of the enemy or my job or my money. See, that's the reality. If we're not doing that in those seasons, we're not really being selfless. Thanks, Rita. Hey, Doug. Hey, who's that? Hey, Clinton. What's up, Clinton? What's happening, Bubba? If we're not being hey, Sherry. If we're not being selfless when we don't feel like it, and then we're not being selfless when the circumstances are not really convenient, we're not really being selfless anyway. And I want you to think about that Paul is in prison. Paul is in prison, right? Paul's in prison, and Paul is thinking about other people in the middle of his pain and struggle, in the middle of his mess. Selflessness is never a convenient proposition. It never is. It's always going to be a challenge. I see our brother Larry Kessler over there in Russia. This is a man who spent a lot of time. He could sit back up there in Lynchburg and just chill and enjoy life. But you know what? He's inconvenienced himself and his wife. I saw Doug saying hey to him. Make that sacrifice to be selfless. And I promise you, when you get off an airplane and you're jet lagged and you're tired and all this, you don't feel like being selfless. But that's the whole point of selflessness, is that even in the most convenient times that we love and consider other people. Even in the most inconvenient times, that we're still godly, that we still have godly character and kindness and the fruit of the Spirit. I don't know, guys. What do y'all think? I want you to think about it. time to be selfless. We're going to pick up a little bit more on this on tomorrow through Friday. Thanks for everybody for joining us on the show, and we appreciate your time with us and hanging out on the Vital Axiom. We've developed a little audience, and we love to hang out with people and just share the gospel. I'm getting ready to go hear my mom and dad. They're here singing and preaching for our seniors today back there in Sunlighters. So you guys have a great day. I'm getting ready to go eat some food cooked by some wonderful people and hang out. Love you guys. See you on the flip-flop tomorrow. What's up, Michael? Tomorrow morning, 11:30 a.m. on YouTube, on Facebook, on Periscope, the Vital Axiom. Bless you guys. Later, alligator after a while, crocodile. Here we go. God bless you guys. Thank you very much. Have a great, great day. Adios. До свидания. Au revoir. Bam, 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 bam.